Hello and welcome to pattern making with Morris. Today's lesson will be all about making the pattern from the standard skirt block for the skirt to go with this jacket. So this is what we're going to be doing today. It's got a knife pleat, open knife pleat at the back and a plain front. So that's the skirt, and we're going to be using our block to arrive at this pattern. And the things that we need, the tools that we need: pencils, ruler, your set square, your curve, your tracing wheel or your spike, scissors. These are some of the tools that we need. We also need pattern paper, whether it be a plain white paper. We need the blocks, back and front, and we're going to be using plain paper today, but you can use spot and cross or brown paper. And we're going to start off with the front. So we're going to place the front block on our paper by folding the paper, and we're going to work from the fold edge. So we fold our paper. So just want to welcome you all wherever you are, whether it's morning, afternoon or evening. Thanks for joining. So here we go. We're going to place the block onto that fold edge of paper, plain paper, and we're going to mark around the block. We're going to put the darts in, and we're going to decide on how long we want the skirt to be, and we're going to measure down from the waist, and we're going to square a line off. So that is the first thing we do. So I'm just going to put a mark there where I want that skirt to finish, the length of the skirt. And once I've got that, I'm going to square a line out from the fold edge across to that line, that mark that I've made, like that. And I'm just going to extend that line down to touch it at the side. I'm going to mark the darts on like that. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to taper the hem of the skirt, because I've got a pleat at the back and I don't want it too wide. So I'm going to come in 1.5 inches, and from the hip, I'm going to take a line through down to that section there. And I'm going to make sure that the curve of the hip's still there. So, because I've taken that line down, I'm just going to curve that round, make sure that's giving me a nice curve there along that line, so touching into there, so it's still a curved line down into there. So once you've curved that over, you then add your seam allowance. I'm going to put a 1-inch hem seam allowance at the bottom, because I like to have a nice felled hem on the bottom of a straight skirt. And then I'm going to come around here 1 centimeter on my side, right along, follow the shape round that you have now created, your new shape, all the way down to the bottom centimeter. And then at the top of the waist, I'm going to put 1 centimeter also. So I just mark that on. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to write on here, cut 1, and this is the front skirt. And then I'm going to shorten the darts by, drill hole rather, but by 1/2 inch. I'm going to put a mark, and I'm going to drill a hole there. And that hole comes in useful when we place it on our fabric. We make that through, and when we stitch our dart, we're going to make sure it runs off 1/2 inch back to that point. So just before we cut this shape out now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold back on the dart so I get a good run at the waist. So I crease back on that dart, and I'm going to take it right over to the other dart. And what happened is the line is broken. So with your curve, or you can do that freehand, get a nice run into there, back into your lines. And what I like to do is to cut this shape out while it's folded. So I just make sure that's secure on there. You can secure it with a tape or your prick stick or a pin, and then you cut through on that line like that. And what happened, you'll see that shape has changed a little bit, and that allows for you to, when you do your dart, it's laid onto your waist very nicely, and it's smooth following round the curve, because your waist is not straight, it's slightly curved. And then once you've done that, you can just now cut out the shape. And once you cut around the section where you've added your seam allowance, your skirt is now tapered at the hemline. It's not as wide as your block. But I just want to say right here at this point, you see when you use your block pattern, you can create any shape that you want from your block once you've got your block. So now this is your pattern. You're going to notch it there, and bring that, let's join those lines right through onto the other side while we're at it. So we notch that notch, and we notch it there, the top, and we just connect them on the other side of our pattern, because we want 2 darts in there. So that completes that, and we can open out our pattern piece now. We can use the middle as our grain line. So that becomes our grain line. That's our grain, and that's the pattern piece. You're going to notch there, notch it, and then halfway between the waist and the hem, we're going to put a notch there. And we also make sure it comes through on the other side. So you trace it through, or you do it with your prodder like that. So it comes through on that side. So we've got a notch on there. So that's a notch, and that's a notch, that's a notch, that's the notch, and here, and at your hemline, you have a notch. So that is your skirt front finish. So once we've got that, we now get hold of our back, and we're going to draw a straight line on our paper at the center back. We're going to leave enough paper at this end, because we got to allow for our pleat at the back. So then once again, you draw right up to where you want the skirt to be, put your darts in, and then we're going to take your block away because you don't need it anymore. We're going to square that line out, touching that point that we've drawn on here. And while we're at it, we can measure off the amount, which was 1.5 inches. We do at the front, we do the same thing at the back, and we take that off, and we take that down from the hip line down to there, into there, straight line down, and we connect up the darts of the back darts here, which we have traced off. And then we're going to extend this hem here, and then we're going to put 1 inch hem seam allowance on the bottom while we're doing that. And the next thing we're going to do, we're going to decide on how deep we want the pleat to be. I'm going to use 2 inches. You could do 1.5 inches if you want. And so I'm going to be using 2 inches for my pleat. And I'm going to just mark it off there. Decide how far up I want it. And once you know how far up you want it, you measure up from the bottom of the hem up to where you want it. And I'm going to take mine up to there. So I put a mark on there. And then I come out my 2 inches, the amount that I want it out. And I square the line up. So I know that's straight from there up to there. And then I'm going to now take a straight line out from there. So square again, I'm going to square that out from there to there. That's where I want it to be. I square a line out, and then I'm going to add along the center back here 1 centimeter. So I mark that on before I go any further with that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to slant that line down 1 inch or 1.25 inches. So from where I want my mark to be there, I'm going to come down like that at a slant from there 1 inch, and then I'm going to add my centimeter along there so it touches that seam line. So centimeter, so it touches that line there. So that's my seam. So it continues my seam allowance along there down to that line. So I just connect that line up straight down to my hem. And once I've done that, all I do now is just add my seam allowance on the top, seam allowance across the top and down the side like that. So I'm going to follow that round, my centimeter, all the way along. Have a nice curve round, following the shape round all the way down to the bottom. And then you can also use your curve to get a nice shape on the hip line here, or you just shape it round yourself to get a nice curve. So there we go. And then this line becomes your center back, and you can put it and use it as your grain line. And we're going to measure down the length of the zip, which is about 8 inches that we use for our zip, and we're going to put a notch, 2 notches to represent the back, and we're going to be stitching from this point up to there for closing the back neck, the back seam. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just cut off some of this paper so that I can fold the dart out like we did the front. I'm going to fold on that line. I'm going to bring it right over to that other, where the other dart shape is, over there, and I'm going to, I can see the lines broken, so I need to get a nice line in there. So with my square, my curve rather, I'm going to connect up the line so I'm getting a good curved line in there. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut on that line while I've got it folded over like that, because I like to do that cutting on the lines before we do anything else, so I get a good lovely shape in there. So I cut out on that line like that, and I can see I've got a nice shape in there to lay nicely over my waist. And then I'm just going to connect this up, just get a nice curve in here till this line is nice and curved. Follow that round so we get a nice curve shape in this line, so it's nice and shaped and curved. So once we've got that, this is now our back skirt, and we're going to cut 2 of those. So that is the back skirt, and then we just cut out. But just before we cut out, you've got to make sure you check that the side seam matches of the front. So we place that onto there, and it should match exactly from there to there if you've done it correctly. And there we go, we put that notch in because that notch matches as we stitch when we cut out. So we then now ready to cut the new shape out that we've got nice and curved around the hips all the way down to the bottom. That's the new line, and you cut that out, and then you cut across the bottom your hem, and then you go up your pleat, and this is your pleat section here, and you cut into here, and then you go up your back seam here. You cut out your shape. So you've got those shapes now, and this is your center back, which is your zip. This is your pleat, and after you stitch, you can snip into there, and that automatically folds back onto that line underneath, and the other piece comes out. So that forms your pleat. So you've got a notch there, and you've got your notch here, notch here. Don't forget to shorten your dart the same as you do the front, and you put a drill hole in there. So that is now your back and your front. So we're just now going to create your waistband. So the waistband, if we put that away, you get a piece of paper, you fold it in half, and you've got to know what the length of your waistband measurement is. So we're going to square a line out here, and we're going to measure the depth of our waistband. I'm going to do our waistband 1 inch waistband. So I'm going to take it all along there and draw a line 1 inch straight along. So with my rule, I'm going to draw a straight line along these marks that I've made, and I'm going to measure my waist. I'm going to use a 24 inches waist on this. So half of that is 12, and a quarter of that is 6 inches. 24, 12, and 6 inches. So I need to have a look at my waist, and I'm going to do my waist. I want whatever this measurement is here, that's from a center front to my side, or from a center back to my side. I'm taking away the dart. So we measure, like for example, we measure from the waist without the side seam, and whatever measurement we get, right, we've got to apply it. So that's the side, and the same thing here, we apply it, taking out the dart. So we're going to call this section here center back, and we want 6 inches. Right, we want 6 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches, and 6 inches. So that is the length of our waistband, 24 inches. So once we've got that, we've got center back. This is now our side seam. This is our center front. This is our other side seam. And this is a center back. This section here is center back. So once we've got the center back, center front, side seam, and center back, we just indicate them, we put a mark. So at the center back, we need a 1/4 inch seam. That's all we need, because it's going to be bagged out. So we just put a 1/4 inch in there. 1/4 inch in there. And at the other center back, we need an inch or 3/4 inch wrap where the button goes when we apply the band to the skirt. So I'm going to measure out 3/4 inch there, and I'm going to square a line up. So that is my wrap. Let's do it that way so we can see. I've got that, and then I'm going to add a 1/4 inch at the end of that, because I need that to be bagged out with a 1/4 inch seam along there. So once I've got that, I'm going to add my centimeter across the top, because that is what we need to attach to the band to the waist. So we go along there, centimeter, a centimeter along there. So that gives us center front notch, side notch, center back notch, and center back notch, and side notch. Excuse me. So we've got to put in all those notches, because they all correspond onto the skirt when we do it. So once we've got that, now we can just cut out the band, and we cut along the band, take the seam we've got the seam, we cut on the line that we marked for the seam like that, because that is our band, and we've got to put notches where I've marked it, the wrap, side, center, side, center back. Then you open that pattern piece, that is your waistband, and then we use the center line for the grain line that we folded on. So this is now your grain line here, and this is now your waistband, and we're going to cut, you cut one of those plus one fuse. The fuse is to make the band a bit stiff, so it's not flopping. So that is your pattern. So we've got to notch them so they come through on that side, and we notch them, and everything should fit in its place. When we close the dart out, the center back goes to there, match there, take the dart out, and it matches exactly on the seam, and it goes till it goes all the way around. So these are the pattern pieces that we need to complete our skirt for that jacket and skirt. We've already done the jacket. So that is the completion of the pattern, back skirt, front skirt, waistband. And I just want to say, please comment down below the things you want to see more of, or, you know, repeat on. And thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. See you next time, and thanks for watching. Bye.